Today, Poland is in the focus of the main players in the global renewable energy market. This is facilitated by a favorable investment climate and clear rules of the game in this industry. How did Poland manage to achieve such results? I want to address this question to our guest, Mihalу Мотылевски, managing counsel of the Dentas company, which has a huge experience in the sustainable energy field. Hi, Mihal. I'm happy to have you here.
Hello, Vitaly. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So the first question, as I said, Poland is one of the most attractive renewable energy market in the world, not only in Europe. As the country finalized its 2040 energy policy, some of the world's biggest players in renewable energy are seeking to capture a share of the market. What is your secret? How did you achieve this? How looks the legislation in this sphere?
So, well, it didn't come without troubles and hiccups on the way, but indeed, I think even with all those problems that I could list, we are currently the biggest, one of the biggest construction sites in Europe in terms of renewables. It suffices to say that over the past 2 years, we've added from just a few hundred megawatts of solar capacity, we are now well over 2 gigawatts. So it gives you the sense of scaling, what scaling up actually means or can mean in the market. And so real size, real scaling up. And I mention it because in many discussions that we have right now about the energy transition towards 2030 or about energy transition towards net zero economy by 2050, a lot of discussions revolve around the subject of upscaling investment. And we've had really 2 waves of such upscaling. One is when we had, in the past decade, a very quick development for several years of onshore wind capacity. This has created, naturally, this upscaling has created many tensions. So some zoning and distance limitations have been put in place, which until now limit the option to new projects, but still we had in the pipeline well over 3 gigawatts of projects pre-developed before those zoning limitations started up. So effectively the size of the market was enough to attract investors. And in fact, the regulation, even though we changed the support scheme from green certificates in the past to a new competitive scheme based on auctions, based on sliding premiums on market price of electricity. So even though we changed the support system, the size of the market and the overall favorable environment of doing business here in Poland, availability of financing, availability of market standards, this all worked to our favor.
Was 2020 successful for the Polish renewable energy industry?
I already mentioned that we experienced a huge upscaling of PV investment, and this mostly small-scale installations. So a lot of that is activating prosumers, so activating a lot of investment potential that accumulates then in a sense of snowball effect to simply give you this desired development. And that's just a very characteristic part of the market. This was greatly supported by a scheme developed by the government to limit the investment and get some financial incentives for all those who would install distributed PV installations. Second thing that I would mention is the overall success of the Polish auction scheme. So we had it fully going in 2018, organized first auctions so first large-scale auction program in 2018 with some pilot auctions taking place in the 2 years before that. 2019 again proved successful. In 2020, we had already major financings closing, including projects that Denton's worked on as legal advisor, helping finance one of the biggest currently constructed wind parks, onshore wind parks of 220 megawatts combined in northern part of Poland. So this all led also to a successful round of auctions in 2020 with one significant difference. For the first time, we've seen already a significant number of utility-scale PV installations competing successfully with onshore wind. So this shows you the progress on the market. This shows you also the great additional business opportunity that investors have identified on the market. And simply, there is a lot of confidence in the overall scheme and support that has been proposed by the state, despite the fact that investors already have to consider how they structure their electricity marketing, because the support proves to be around the level of market price of electricity. So another thing is that we will see merchant projects emerging as well.
Could you please give me more details about the auction system in Poland, how it works today?
Again, I will start by saying that we did not develop the system in Poland from the scratch, and this is part of the reason that I believe it gives investors confidence. So the Polish government took example from the UK, which launched the first auction system based on a type of contract for difference. So you agree with the state on a strike price that you compare later to an average, some kind of reference market price for electricity, and you combine the cash flows from selling electricity on the market, so you have some kind of merchant risk that you manage on a regular basis. You combine this with a sliding premium at all times when the market price of electricity is below the agreed auctioned strike price. And this is very similar to the UK system. So investors who already tested this auction system in the UK could comment easily on what they are experiencing in Poland. There are some differences, but they are, as I said, easy to explain. The auction system is for ready-to-build projects, essentially. So you take the development risk, but with quite generous offerings, I would say, from the government in terms of how big the volume of electricity is that you can auction for, what can be the strike price. This is determined by the overall money that the government puts into the system. So the auctions run on an annual basis for ready-to-build projects, pre-qualified, based on the complete permitting. The projects, depending on technology, have from 24 to 42, I believe, months to construct. It's 24 for PVs, it's 33 for onshore wind. Offshore wind is now completely out of this system. It has a specific dedicated regulation. More on that in a second, I hope. So in onshore, it's a pretty transparent system. The term of support, which is important, is for 15 years. You run monthly settlements with a dedicated state vehicle. We call it the settlements operator, and that special purpose company is dedicated and financed in a dedicated way to support those settlements. It's another measure of confidence, since the settlement operator runs such programs in Poland already since 2007. And I think if you look at it from that historical perspective, then of course having a settlements operator, a state venture that provides stable financing for almost 15 years now, it gives a lot of confidence in the system.
As I mentioned, Poland plans to implement the 2040 plan, which means an essential restructuring of the energy system, because your system is very similar with post-Soviet Union systems. It's not easy, but we have to do it. What are the main objectives of this plan?
They will not surprise you. So Poland is, as you said correctly, it's heavily dependent on fossil fuels, mostly lignite and hard coal or thermal coal. But we've just had figures for 2020 published, and we see that the share of coal is dropping dramatically in the electricity generated and consumed in Poland. So it came down over the past few years from well over 80%. Now, I think the latest figure is around 70%. So even without any specific coal exit policy yet, we already see that the generation is dropping. We had a slow increase of renewable generation over the past few years, and now we see a major increase based on this PV development that I mentioned, based on the construction and completion of first auction projects. So the share of renewable electricity is rising. Natural gas is also, this is also a development that we see that Polish government is considering natural gas as a type of transition fuel, and the consumption of that for the purpose of the power system increases. But definitely towards 2040, we have a number of goals. So first of all, we have this major and one of the most significant and already running development programs, which is offshore wind. And in the first, already this year, we expect up to almost 6 gigawatts of projects receiving support, also in terms of those contract for difference settlement support schemes. So the sliding premium, there's a very tight schedule. So we will learn, essentially we know which projects can compete or apply for that. We expect by the end of June to learn about the awards. The system will then go into further stages, including some approval from the European Commission. But we are talking about at least close to 6 gigawatts of capacity that is expected to be added to the system over the next several years. So by 2030, definitely. Another part of this program is a revived, again, discussion about installing and completing by 33 already, I think, a nuclear power plant in Poland. So that's part of the discussion. Of course, with nuclear, this is always a difficult subject if you have a country that has frozen its nuclear program back in the early 90s. So the local capacity is limited if you would compare it with countries that operate actually and continue operating nuclear power plants. So that's definitely a big challenge. Then again, we still see a lot of expectations for upscaling PV installations. The government is now in the process of public consultations of its hydrogen policy. So you see that we are embracing a lot of new trends, those that are most significant for other developed markets as well. And of course, part of the overall energy transition plan is the access to a lot of European funds that have been put in place, both for the transition itself, but also as this policy to recover the economy from the pandemic crisis. So a lot of that goes into energy transition. We do expect more distributed generation. We do expect less fossil fuels. We already have the offshore program running, so that's a lot really to deliver on.
Okay, as I understood, offshore wind energy, this is the main trend. This is the basics for new Polish energy program. Yep.
This is the biggest also in terms of, I judge it by, first of all, that this is a specific framework already in place. This is offshore wind is not something that is being still discussed. This is something already ongoing. So we've got developers disclosing further permits literally this week. We've got joint ventures being announced or formalized. We've got now, and just to give you a measure of things, currently on the market, we've got 3 major joint ventures among local players, local developers of offshore wind installations and experienced international players. So first of all, and this dates back already to 2018, we've got a Polish private power producer and developer, Polenergia, which partnered with Equinor. We've got PGE, which partnered with Ørsted, and this is the newest announcement. And just before that, we have PKN Orlen, so one of our incumbent oil majors, which also embraces this energy transition, and PKN Orlen, which partnered with Northland Power, so another experienced international player in the offshore wind market. And this again shows the confidence in the market that big players, experienced players, they've seen the opportunity, they came to the market, they offered their support in developing it, and they're doing it right now at a very, very quick pace. Just to remind you what I said earlier, those developers, at least from those 3 consortiums, will apply to participate in the support framework for offshore wind by the end of March, and by the end of June, they will know about the awards. And because of this big political focus on making this one of really the drivers of the energy transition in Poland, with the favorable approach that we expect from the European Commission, since this is another major market opening in a sense in Europe, with a lot of potential to generate jobs, a lot of potential to generate, increase the share of renewable electricity significantly. That's of course something that I would really value in this market.
What are the main obstacles for the renewable energy industry in Poland today?
There are some, definitely. I think they don't differ from other European markets. If we at Dentons, we do have a lot of thought leadership. We do engage with our clients and contacts in many public discussions also. And recently we had an event where we discussed with equity investors, where we discussed with European and international financing institutions how they perceive this energy transition. And I think Poland is the same. And I will mention, to be more specific, I will mention a couple of things. So first of all, what we are seeing is a lot of investment and a lot of change done at the same time or within a short time frame. This means, this is what upscaling really stands for. You do a lot more over a specific time frame. So this creates a lot of challenges for the supply chain, for the administration to handle an increased amount of applications, to issue an increased amount of permits, or to simply deliver on supervision of all these technical aspects of those projects. So we definitely need to make sure that capacity to do all these things that we have planned, that the capacity is also there, that we support both the administration, central administration, local administration, municipalities, that we support the creation of the value chain, whatever else is necessary beyond, those pure focused vision of a wind turbine or of a cable. There's a lot to do beyond that. Secondly, it's the ability to deal with all the different changes in the system and bring them to a common basis, so that we avoid unnecessary tensions which can delay things or which can simply become costly to market participants. One of that is grid connections. some of that is dealing with how to optimize certain use of the network infrastructure, or how to optimize contracts for electricity, so that more players more flexibly can enter into them and you don't create market risks at the same time. So definitely infrastructure is a bottleneck, and just to give you a figure for that, Polish DSOs estimate, and this is part of a European survey of the situation in the networks, done with Eurelectric and EDSO, so a European Organization of Distribution Network Operators. So the Polish distribution network operators estimate that they need 25 billion euros over the next decade to deliver on grid investment, on digitalization, on smart metering, on many other optimizations that don't go necessarily into hard infrastructure, but simply allow this to function in an optimized way. So it's, again, a lot of effort. And you need to add that on top of the purely generation side developments. Then you need to add to that optimizing the behavior of off-takers, certainly of the industry. We've got trends like electrification of the industry, so a lot of happening in this area as well. And I think the tensions that we will experience, because we need to do so much in such a short time, these will be the biggest obstacles. But they affect, in principle, all market players. They affect the regulator, they affect the lawmaker. So with the energy policy and with the understanding that we need to get things done, I think we'll be simply solving one thing after another.
Poland faces a lot of challenges now, but I'm sure that you will be progressing very fast, because I see these results for the last couple of years. It's really very good result. So, Michal, thank you so much for our Zoom, our conversation. Good luck with your work, and we'll be happy to see you personally in the nearest time. And
Hopefully, I have to tell you in a final word that the development of renewables didn't really become so much impacted by the pandemic. And this definitely gives us hope that there are things that we can deal with and bring things back to normal. And I wish the same to you, that we can travel again, meet again in person, and exchange these views, not only online, but also in more engaged direct conversations. Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, actually, American government sure that renewable energy can become a main driver for economy here, to create new jobs, new taxpayers. So yeah, we are on the right way. Michal, thank you so much. Have a great evening. Stay safe, healthy, happy, and positive. And we'll be glad to speak with you again. Thank you so much for.
Same to you. Thanks.
Thanks.
Take care. Bye bye.